Proverbs 4. Wise children, listen when your father corrects you. Pay attention and learn good judgment. For I am giving you good guidance. Don't turn away from my instructions. For I too was once my father's son, tenderly loved as my mother's only child. My father taught me, take my words to heart, follow my commands, and you will live. Get wisdom, develop good judgment. Don't forget my words or turn away from them. Don't turn your back on wisdom, for she will protect you. Love her, and she will guard you. Getting wisdom is the wisest thing you can do. And whatever else you do, develop good judgment. If you prize wisdom, she will make you great. Embrace her, and she will honor you. She will place a lovely wreath on your head. She will present you with a beautiful crown. My child, listen to me and do as I say, and you will have a long, good life. I will teach you wisdom's ways and lead you in straight paths. When you walk, you won't be held back. When you run, you won't stumble. Take hold of my instructions. Don't let them go. Guard them, for they are the key to life. Don't do as the wicked do, and don't follow the path of evildoers. Don't think about it. Don't go that way. Turn away and keep moving. For evil people can't sleep until they've done their evil deed for the day. They can't rest until they've caused someone trouble. They eat the food of wickedness and drink the wine of violence. The way of the righteous is like the first gleam of dawn, which shines ever brighter until the full light of day. But the way of the wicked is like total darkness. They have no idea what they are stumbling over. My child, pay attention to what I say. Listen carefully to my words. Don't lose sight of them. Let them penetrate deep into your heart. For they bring life to those who find them, and healing to their whole body. Guard your heart above all else, for it determines the course of your life. Avoid all perverse talk. Stay away from corrupt speech. Look straight ahead and fix your eyes on what lies before you. Make out a straight path for your feet. Stay on the safe path. Don't get sidetracked. Keep your feet from following evil. All right, super cool. Man, tons of stuff there. So we're 4 verses into about 4 chapters into about 30 chapters. And there's so many things that jump out at me in this chapter that I want to mention, but I don't know what jumps out at you. That's what's interesting about the comments I make, is that I'm trying to kind of put myself in your shoes, only because I've worked with younger adults for so long, and I think I kind of know the topics and the things you're thinking about. But I don't pretend to know where you're at or what's going on with you. I mean, one thing in there about, how you speak. I think especially for young men at this age, that's something you might want to consider. I think a lot of times you want to act, you think you're tough, or you think you sound like a grown man when you use vulgar language, and it's really not that cool. It's actually more cool to not use it. Sure, there's times for it, and I use it as well. I'm not saying it's wrong every time, but I think biting your tongue and using a cleaner word is probably a better call sometimes. And hey, if you know me well, you know, trust me, I'm not the first one to tell you that vulgarity is a sin every time, but it can be. But when they talk about first talk, a lot of times they're talking about slandering other people, talking ill about other people, saying things that don't benefit anyone else. So there is something to be said for thinking about what you say. But what I wanted to kind of touch on here is not something that specific. I guess there's a couple other specific things. But one thing about this passage that jumps out, and this has been in Proverbs already, but I think it's used a few times in this chapter alone, is the idea of the path. The idea of not stumbling, not falling, not tripping, staying on the right path, choosing the right path, being on the good path, right? The path that leads to righteousness, that leads to life, and all these things. And I want to touch on, this is the big idea for today. The big idea for today is I think a lot of people in all walks of life, regardless of their belief system, but I'm going to talk especially about the Christian community today, because I'm assuming most of you are in that, is that there is this idea, and this is outside the Christian community too, but people live in the past and they live in the future. They're always living in what they've done, either out of regret and shame, or they're living in what they've done out of pride. Oh, look what I used to be, or what I used to do, or what I did back then. The glory days, right? And then you're living in the future. And a lot of times when you're a younger person, you're living in the future. You're living for the hope of your future and how great it's going to be. Or maybe you're scared of how it's going to be, and you're fearful. And maybe that keeps you up at night. You have anxiety about it. I just spoke with a young person the other day who realized, I just need to do my best at what's right in front of me right now, and don't really worry about how things are going to play out later, because who knows what I'll think later. And that's a great perspective. In other words, you may have an idea right now, I'm going to go do this. I'm going to be a fireman or whatever, right? But a year from now, you may have experiences and knowledge that completely change your perspective on that. So you may be committed to being a fireman right now, but that doesn't mean a year from now you will be. And that's fine, because pursuing being a fireman with all you've got and doing your very best and running the race best you can is going to put you in a position to either A, be a fireman and do it great, or B, learn, wow, being a fireman just isn't for me, but you'd rather learn that now instead of waiting 10 years to figure it out after you've been a fireman for 3 years because you never really did anything else, right? So there's that idea. But this idea of the path, okay, this big idea I want to talk about is that it's really a commitment to whatever you believe in. For those of us that believe the Christian worldview, our belief as it relates to who we are as children of God, what that means for our identity, because of what God has done for us, not what we can do for God, is something we can live out in every moment of every day. Every breath that we take, every thought that we have, every decision that we make, every word that we say, and that is such, in essence, essentially, every step we take. Okay? So that's this idea of the path. If you are moment by moment present and in a state of mind where you're aware of who you are in the universe, okay? Who you believe God to be to you, how much you are loved, how much forgiven you have been given, how much forgiveness you have been given, you can now offer grace and peace and love and joy and mercy and forgiveness to all those around you. And that makes you a light in the world. That makes you exactly what Jesus was talking about when he talked about how, hey, Jesus, how are they going to know that we're your followers? And Jesus said, by the way you love each other. That's how they'll know you're my followers. So anyway, bigger picture on this one, but the path has been talked about over and over and over again in Proverbs. And when you think about being on a path, it doesn't matter where you've been or where you've come from. You're where you're at now. And it kind of doesn't really matter where you're going. What matters right now is what is the step you're going to take right now. What is your next step and how are you going to take it? Because that's going to determine the direction you're headed in. You can always change course. You can even turn around and come back sometimes and go the other way. But I think if you look at your day and your life more in the sense of what is in the now, and if you study, Buddhism and more Eastern philosophies, there's a lot more discussion. Actually, if you look at ancient Christianity, it's there as well. Especially the mystics, like the early church fathers, the first 400-600 years of Christianity, there's a lot of mysticism, a lot of wonder, a lot of amazement in the now, a lot more meditation that happened in early Christianity than happens today. So that might have been kind of heavy today, a little bit more than what we talked about, but I felt like after a few chapters, you guys are ready for a little more, and you've heard this idea of the path a lot, and kind of what does that mean? It's not just something that's in the future. It's not something that's just happened. You're on it right now. All right, y'all. Go be wise. Have a great day.